The movie opens at an extremely busy JFK International Airport in New York, where people from all corners of the world are passing through during the Christmas season. Amid the chaos, a young woman named Hadley Sullivan hurries through the crowds, but finds out that she missed her flight by 4 minutes. Hadley is 20 years old and has a history of being late for events and running out of battery on her phone. It is revealed that she has a strong dislike for 3 things: mayonnaise, confined spaces, and dentists. But what truly haunts her is the separation of her parents, which has made divorce her greatest fear. We learn that Hadley is an NYU student who is traveling to the UK to attend her father's wedding ceremony. She inquires at the counter about the earliest next departure to London and discovers that there is a seat on the very next plane, which departs an hour and a half later. However, it turns out to be business class, which Hadley cannot afford. She then calls her father and tells him about her unpleasant situation. Hearing this, he immediately instructs her to take the next flight, offering to buy the business class ticket for his daughter. Hadley then realizes her phone is dead and walks over to the charging outlet. There, she meets a charming British guy named Oliver Jones. He is a statistics student at Yale and has a deep fascination with probabilities and maths. He also has 3 specific fears: germs, darkness, and surprises. But what truly defines his life is the moment he learned about his mother's cancer. And ever since that day, Oliver vowed that his life should be a perfect calculation of probabilities and statistics. Next, it turns out that Oliver and Hadley are both catching the same flight to London, so they decide to grab a meal together before boarding. During their conversation, Hadley mentions that she will be in London for her father's wedding. She notices Oliver's suit and assumes he's attending a wedding as well, and he doesn't correct her either. They soon realize they both dislike mayonnaise and share a good laugh about it. Later, the two board their plane and must separate because they have different seats. They both wonder if they'll ever see each other again. However, luck seems to be on their side when Oliver discovers that his seatbelt is broken. He informs a flight attendant about this and is moved to a business class seat right beside Hadley. Once again, their conversation resumes, and Hadley shows Oliver a book her father gave her when he divorced her mother. She tells Oliver that she intends to return it to her father and isn't going to read it. Hadley shares that her father had taken a job at Oxford, initially for just 1 semester, but it turned out to be a way for him to distance himself from her mother. At the end of that semester, her parents decided to end their marriage, which shocked Hadley. Months later, Hadley's father fell in love with another woman in England named Charlotte and decided to marry her. He wants Hadley to be a part of this new chapter, but Hadley still has some negative emotions towards him and finds it difficult to process them in a healthy way. After this, Oliver reveals that his mother was diagnosed with cancer when he was a young boy. After more than a decade in remission, the disease made a devastating return. This experience led Oliver to start viewing the world through numbers, eventually leading him to pursue a degree in statistics in the US. The two then have a good time in flight, and they even hold hands when Hadley gets scared. Later, on their way to the restroom, the two almost kiss, but are interrupted by another passenger. The next morning, when the plane lands at Heathrow, they decide to head out together. However, they are divided by different lines since Hadley must go through customs because she is an American citizen. Oliver hastily writes his number on Hadley's phone, but unfortunately, it falls down and shuts down before she can save it. Oliver tells her that they will see each other on the other side, but Hadley takes a very long time. When she finally arrives, she doesn't find him and assumes they'll never see each other again. Disheartened by this, Hadley takes a cab to the wedding venue, where she sees her father after almost a year. The ceremony is lovely, and her new stepmom Charlotte is also pretty adorable. The bridesmaids hastily get Hadley ready, and the ceremony proceeds and turns out remarkably well functioned. Meanwhile, her father is overjoyed to have his precious daughter there, but Hadley's mind keeps drifting back to thoughts of Oliver. He then nervously asks Hadley if she'll dance with him at the reception, and she gladly agrees. Later, Hadley heads to the bar for a drink and overhears guests talking about attending a memorial service in Peckham, the same neighborhood Oliver mentioned he'd be in. As she listens closer, Hadley realizes they're discussing Oliver and his mother's memorial service, as her cancer returned after 14 years. She finally realizes why Oliver flew back to London, and she feels sad at the idea of him attending his mother's funeral alone. So, she promises her dad she'll return for the reception and immediately sets off to find Oliver in Peckham. We then shift to Oliver's perspective after he is separated from Hadley at the airport. While he's waiting for Hadley, his brother Luther shows up and causes a commotion. The authorities do not let the brothers stay at the airport any longer, so Oliver must depart only minutes before Hadley arrives. After some time, we see them dress in costumes from Shakespeare's plays and enter the service place. It is revealed that his mother is still alive, but on the edge of death, since she is refusing cancer treatment. His parents, who are seasoned theatre performers, have planned a Shakespeare-themed memorial event to allow loved ones to say goodbye to his mother. Meanwhile, Oliver is dealing with his mother's decision not to get further medical treatment. He tells his mother about it, explaining that his statistics lead him to believe that with treatment, she could perhaps live for several months or even a couple of years longer. His mother, on the other hand, has a very different view and does not want to go through the pain of chemotherapy again. She argues that chemotherapy will just postpone her death and cause her suffering. By the end of the memorial, Oliver appears to have accepted his mother's choice, and his attention shifts to his blossoming love for Hadley. Sometime later, we see Hadley arriving in Peckham. She's still struggling to locate the place where Oliver is, so she approaches a random woman and asks for directions. Eventually, she arrives at the event and is greeted by Luther, who kindly leads her inside. Once she enters the premises, Hadley meets Oliver's parents and is relieved to learn that his mother is not dead. A few moments later, Oliver appears at the scene and is surprised by Hadley's unexpected arrival. They spend some time together, but Oliver is visibly disturbed by his mother's condition. Hadley inquires Oliver about why he didn't share his mother's situation with her earlier. To dodge the question, Oliver kisses her, but Hadley backs off, explaining that it's not the right moment to express such feelings. Now, Oliver explains that this is his way of connecting with her, rather than dwelling on the sadness of losing his mother. He also becomes somewhat offended, mentioning that he can't share such personal matters with someone he's just met. Hearing this, Hadley realizes that coming here was a mistake and decides to leave without getting his number. However, she accidentally leaves her bag behind, which a random woman later returns to Oliver. Afterward, when it's time to give his speech, Oliver abandons the words he had written down and speaks from the heart and goes off. This time, he doesn't rely on numbers or statistics to convey his feelings for his dying mother. The truth is, he is heartbroken at the prospect of losing his beloved mother, but being a rational adult, he has finally come to understand her decision. Oliver then supports her desire to live the remaining days on a happy note. On the other hand, Hadley realizes she left her backpack behind and finds herself at a flea market. There she decides to trade her boots for sneakers. Right then, she realizes that her phone is also dead as usual. Borrowing a stranger's phone, she calls her father, who is just about to start his wedding reception. Hadley tells him that she lost her way, so the loving father leaves his reception and rushes to pick her up. Sometime later, when her father arrives, the two have a much-needed heart-to-heart conversation. Hadley is touched that he came for her and realizes how much she still means to him. During their conversation, her father admits that he and Hadley's mother had stopped loving each other for quite some time, and their marriage had become an empty shell. Given that their daughter was now grown up and independent, they decided to get a divorce to allow each other to find happiness in separate lives. Hearing this, Hadley forgives her father for their divorce. She also confesses that she had expected her stepmother to fit the archetype of evil stepmothers from fictional stories. However, to her surprise, she actually found herself liking Charlotte from the moment they first met. In the meantime, we see Oliver's family playfully teasing him about Hadley and his potential affair with her. Soon, he finds the reception destination on the invitation card inside Hadley's bag. While his family urges him to go after her, Oliver throws out another unfavorable statistic, but his father explains that even if he had known his wife would eventually die of cancer, he wouldn't change a thing about their past together. Inspired by this response from his father, Oliver seeks a ride from Luther to Greenwich at the wedding reception immediately. Meanwhile, at the wedding reception, Hadley appears to be enjoying herself. She shares a dance with her father and becomes more open to building a relationship with his new wife. She even agrees to miss her flight the following day, deciding to spend Christmas with them. About an hour later, Oliver finally arrives at the venue and locates the woman he almost let slip away. Hadley, upon seeing him, can hardly believe that he came searching for her. Oliver opens up to her, explaining that he tends to be overcalculated because he hates getting caught off guard by painful experiences, like disease and heartbreaks. He admits that he has a fear of surprises, which is why he chooses to live his life guided by statistics. Touched by his effort and sincerity, Hadley accepts his apology, and the two kiss each other. Now, Hadley tells him that she has decided to stay in London for Christmas with her dad and stepmom. In response, Oliver starts sharing statistical insights, mentioning how 1 in every 50 relationships starts at an airport. Intrigued by his calculative mind, Hadley asks him about his field of study, and Oliver reveals that he's researching the statistical probability of love at first sight. In a voiceover, the narrator reveals more statistics about the future of Hadley and Oliver's relationship. They will remain together for the next 6 decades, sharing a lifetime of love and memories. They will also become parents to a daughter. Hadley will be there to hold Oliver's hand when his mother passes away, and Oliver will hold Hadley's when she takes her last breath. The narrator concludes by saying that all of these moments wouldn't have been possible if not for a missed flight, a broken seatbelt, and a choice to love each other every day.